Hello, my name is Michael Quinn from the Tourism Careers Division of Fáilte Ireland. Thanks a million for joining us today. We know you're really busy, and it's coming up to Easter, coming up to the season, and we know there's been a lot of challenges with recruitment and all sorts of challenges. And we're hoping that some of the information that you'll receive today will help, especially with your recruitment efforts. And we're very delighted to be joined by a couple of other people who I'll let you know about shortly. So to go through what we're going to be looking at today, obviously, I'm going to give a sort of run through of the ongoing supports that we are giving from Fáilte Ireland, with particular focus on recruitment and retention, things like that. We're then going to go into the main focus of today, which is the Pathways to Work strategy, and specifically the Work Placement Experience Programme from the Department of Social Protection. You'll know from the invite that this goes into all the, the financial benefits, the potential benefits to you, your staff, and to the participants of the programme. But I'm going to let the Department of Social Protection talk about that. So we'll have Siobhan Lawler from the department going through those presentations. After that, then we'll have industry perspective, and we're very happy to be joined by Corinne today. She's going to take us through what she has found to be basically the things that have worked for her and how this can help other members of the industry. Then we'll go into the panel. It'll be great to get your thoughts and take on some of your questions. And then we'll finish up with some of the key information that you need to use some of the supports that you'll hear about today. So to kick off, I just want to remind you, I know some of you will know about some of the supports that we've had. So the Transition Year Work Placement Programme, we've had a great response to this, but just to let you know, we know that transition year work placements are currently drying up at the minute, and there's some are ongoing and some are continuing, but by and large, we're looking forward to September. As you know, we have put together manuals for both managers and for students. We've also put together a webinar, and we've put together lots of information for you to partake, post your placements, for people to link onto those, and the placements are kept at tourismcareers.ie. But for you, the best way to go about finding out what goes on here is to go to fáilteireland.ie/tourismcareers. I'll probably refer back to that a couple of times, and there should be something popped into the chat here, but that's a really good place to look at for a number of these supports. Another thing that we are delighted to be launching is our third level student webinars. So we actually have we're linking businesses to local students and graduates in their area, in regional areas. So on the 22nd of this month, the 25th, the 26th, and the 28th, we'll have a number of webinars that industry can access. Supports, we know that it's really important. This is a really important talent pool, especially at the moment, for businesses to be able to access. And as part of those webinars, we'll discuss how best to talk to them, the platforms where you can reach them, and we'll have people from the institutions themselves, whether it's further or higher education, to speak to you about the best way of reaching their students to get seasonal work and potentially more longer term work. So I'd really urge you to go to the schedule of supports, which is on fáilteireland.ie. It's at the Business Supports Hub. You'll probably get a link in the chat here. Just go there, and whichever one suits you in terms of region, you should sign up, and you'll probably get some advice there. And if you're not already linking with these students, it's probably a must do. Tourismcareers.ie is still going very strong. We're driving more traffic than ever. So it is a really good opportunity for you to promote anything that you've got in terms of, if you're recruiting, if you're doing recruitment events, if you've got specific jobs, you may have a number of jobs, you might have a particular story to tell about the benefits of working in whichever business you have or businesses. So I would urge you maybe to get in touch with us in Tourism Careers here at Fáilte Ireland. If you've got something to say, or you want something to be promoted, there are generally ways that we can do that. We've got a number of sections, including live jobs, we've got a work experience section, and we've got a course finder for the academic courses and also upskilling courses. So it's worth looking, it's worth sort of exploring yourself, seeing what's there and how you can, I suppose, participate with us and collaborate in getting positive messages around the industry out there. And I'm very pleased to say that we will be relaunching our Be the Pulse recruitment drive. It's a recruitment awareness campaign, and this year we'll have a 12-week campaign coming later this month. Previously, we would have focused on the younger generation. We're still focusing heavily on there, but we're expanding to target other key audiences. because we know from research that there are a number of other demographics coming back into the labour force, including retirees, parents who may have more flexible options, and they're becoming very useful. We'll have a new radio ad to speak to multiple demographics. We're providing resources to businesses to support their recruitment efforts. So there'll be a toolkit with a number of great resources there and information. We'll also showcase employers with great people practices and thriving employees in our PR campaigns. So all in all, it's a pretty big campaign, and we'll be getting in touch further again to show you how you can leverage that to the best of your ability. But today, I suppose the main thing we're here to talk about is the Pathways to Work strategy from the Department of Social Protection, and specifically the Work Placement Experience Programme. That's the WPEP. You'll also hear it being called WPEP as well. So there's a couple of ways to call it, but there's so much in this that's of potential benefit to your businesses, and that's what the Department of Social Protection will go into later today. We have collaborated on a number of areas, particularly in regard to providing some of the training modules, the online training modules, some of the templates, role profiles, and we're very, very happy to say that today we're launching our Kickstart Your Journey module, which is really an overview of the tourism industry for any newcomers, any new members of staff, potential members of staff that you may have. So I'd urge you to go to our Learning Hub. You'll probably see a link there in the chat to go to our Learning Hub at fáilteireland.ie and look at some of the other modules that are there as well. Now, we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, so I won't labour it too much, and I won't go into any detail on the programme itself, because thankfully we've got Siobhan from the Department of Social Protection to do all that. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Siobhan, who is in the Employer Relations Division of the Department of Social Protection, to take us through the rest of the presentation. So over to you, Siobhan.
Hi, Michael. Thank you very much for inviting me to join here today. I may have presented to some of your members before, but I think what you've done over the past while is worth reiterating the value of the Kickstart Your Journey and how that can integrate with some of the programs that we offer, particularly Work Placement Experience, which I'm going to talk about this afternoon. So I'm Siobhan Lawler. I have responsibility for employer relations across the country, across Intro. And we have nearly 100 people working in employer relations to support employers, to support business, and to try to match them with people who are available to work on the live register and others. I also have responsibility for Jobs Ireland, which is our free recruitment platform, and we use that to match clients with employer vacancies. I'm joined here by Jackie Hogan, that you'll meet later on as well. So in relation to the Work Placement Experience Programme, what it is basically is a programme which allows you to hire for attitude and to train for skills. It's a work experience program. It's not anticipating that it's a subsidy for taking people on from off the live register or elsewhere where they already have the skills. It's about building skills. And I think we know that over the past while, because of the fact that we can see that the live register is lower than it was before COVID, and also the levels of employment are higher than they were before COVID, is that we do need to reskill people in order to grow the labour market. So this is a prime opportunity for people to provide training roles and to create pipelines for employment over the period, so to help your business. So what it is it's a 6-month work experience programme. And participation amongst the job seekers is voluntary. So the reason we've done it so that it's voluntary is the fact that the job seekers have to want to be working with you on this program, so that you don't have any issues about people not turning up or people being there, who are resistant or anything like that. So we have an aim of providing 10,000 work placements, which means that we need about 5,000 host employers, and you apply on jobseekers.ie. The aim of the programme is to keep people close to the labour market, to provide them with the opportunity to gain quality work experience in a new role, in an area that they haven't been in before. Because we all know there's this cycle of you can't get a job if you don't have the skills, but you can't get the skills if you don't have the job. So we're trying to break that cycle And that's why there is this training role here. So it's not for job seekers who already have the skills for the job. And I'll come back to what you can use for that in just at the end of my presentation. So basically what happens in the Work Placement Experience Programme is that we pay them. So you get the value of somebody for 30 hours a week over 6 months, and we pay them 311 per week. They're still on job seekers payment at an uplifted rate. That's the personal rate, and if they have qualified adults or children, well then they get paid extra for that. They're paid directly by us, and so there's no employment contract, there's no issues in relation. If you want to let somebody go, that's all fine. The aim is that you don't create an employment contract, and so you don't pay them any money, because otherwise there's a potential for you to create a contract. And that would make them ineligible for job seekers payment, but it also brings them into employment rights. So over the 30 hours per week, over 26 weeks, you train them and you assign them a mentor. So the mentor is not just a supervisor, it's somebody who's helping them in terms of career planning, in terms of career development, and it's not their supervisor. It's somebody else who will help them to grow into their job, to actually understand the skills that they're learning, and to understand the sector that they're working in. So you might not employ them yourself at the end, but at least they'll have things that, something to take away from it, that they've grown their competence, their skills, their experience, that they can sell on to somebody else. So participants complete their work training and upskilling at no cost to you. So you have the potential to gain a new member of staff who's newly skilled, and at the same time, because of the fact that you're not paying them, you have the potential for payroll savings of over 8,000 over the period of the programme. In that 30 hours, 26 weeks, you create a learning plan for them. So we've developed a template so that you fill that in. It'll be an individual one for each different person, and that they have to undertake a minimum of 60 hours training. Now, 20 hours of that training should be sector recognised or accredited. In this instance, because of the work that we've done with Fáilte Ireland, we have developed a template through Kickstart Your Journey, that there is access to training online. So you don't have to go and build a training program. You can just identify it on Kickstart Your Journey, do this training, this training, this training. It's a HACCP or manual handling. If there's anything like that, we can pay that in terms of the training support grant, and then you can use those training modules to fulfill the requirement in terms of training. Separately, we also have a QQI accredited training through the ETBs, and that enables somebody to go and do to learn employability skills, which are not necessarily immediately linked to your sector, but it is about how do you build your skills, your career, and your CV, so that you can sell your skills and grow your skills in order to get a job. Participants and hosts can use the relevant training themselves, so they don't need to use the QQI training, they don't need to use the Kickstart Your Journey, but there's also other training that we have listed on Jobs Ireland on the training by sector page. And if you click onto hospitality and tourism, you'll be able to get in there too. And so, as I say, if there's a cost for the training, which there wouldn't be with Kickstart and there wouldn't be with QQI, but if there is any cost for training, well then we have the training support grant, where up to €1,000 can be paid in respect of training made available to a participant. Obviously it has to be approved by us, but we'll pay for it for each participant. So if you can take on more than one person, absolutely you can, if you have up to 10 employees. If you have between 10 and 20 employees, you can take on 2 participants. Between 21 and 30, you can take 3 participants, and 30 plus, it can be up to a maximum of 10 participants or 10% of your workforce. And the employees in this, when we're doing this ratio, we count only those people who are paying tax and PRSI and are working themselves at least 30 hours per week. So the other support that you get when you're taking somebody on, a job seeker, in starting this, and when I say job seeker, it's also somebody in relation to disability allowance, somebody who's moving from a one-parent family, and they also qualify for this. So you get a case officer support. So a case officer will be assigned to you who will monitor to ensure that the training plan is being followed, to ensure that the person is turning up, that there's no issues, and that you're fulfilling your part and they're fulfilling their part, and that the money is due, which is due to be paid, continues to be paid. Obviously, you get free recruitment on Jobs Ireland. Some of you might not have used it before, and so it's an introduction to Jobs Ireland. One of the things about Jobs Ireland is if you register on Jobs Ireland, those vacancies go across to Europe as well. So particularly if you have a specialised role, is that they automatically transfer across to the EURES portal so that it's visible across Europe. As I said, we have a network of recruitment support, so that is available to you, particularly if you have a couple of different locations. So the participants themselves will be between 18 and 65 in receipt of a qualifying job seeker payment for 6 months or over, and that's job seekers benefit, job seekers allowance, and job seekers transition. Disability allowance, one parent family, and blind person's pension. For people who've been on PUP, which is now closed, on community employment for TUS or SS or SWA, the time that they've spent on that will go towards fulfilling. So the participant will get accredited training and work experience. They get work placement experience, they get mentoring, case officer support. They'll have their own personal learning journey so that they track their own progress and continue to be involved in the work that they're doing. The aim is to create better employability skills, better training, better chance of employment for the job seeker, and hopefully, if it goes very successfully, maybe even a job with you. So the summary for you is that you're asked to provide a training plan, training, support and mentoring, a commitment to return monitoring forms every month, and you have to engage with the DSP case officer to 2 meetings. One is after month 1 to make sure that everything has started well, and one is at month 5, which is preparing for the close off. As a host, what you can expect is a trainee for 6 months, payroll savings of over 8,000, an introduction to mentoring, which we can provide for you through the ETBs if you hadn't done mentoring before, and that's a workshop, recruitment incentives, and information on workforce learning options, being part of the National Economic Plan, which is what we have all hoped for. And just in relation to that, in terms of the the recruitment incentives, if you take somebody on at the end of the 6 months, you will qualify for Jobs Plus, which is between 7,500 or 10,000, which is paid over 2 years, and it encourages people to take people off the live register. It's paid monthly, so everybody who's on the Work Placement Experience Programme or WEP or WPEP will get the benefit of that. So you submit your vacancies on Jobs Ireland to become a host. We do an approval system to make sure that you do have employees, that you have signed up to the terms and conditions. We have a video on Jobs Ireland to show you how to create a WPEP vacancy, and the application needs to describe the role and the training. It cannot describe a job, which would normally be, take responsibility for, or, in charge of, or anything like that, because they will not be. They will be in training roles, so they will have no personal responsibility in the first instance. Applications will be validated by the Jobs Ireland team, and including tax clearance. And you have to complete a form, which is completed and verified by us in our work placement unit, and then we give you the commencement date, so as to make sure that we can take them off the payment and start them on the new payment. And that's why we give the start date, so as to make sure that we have that all in train. So for more information, you can email us at employer@welfare.ie, or our phone number is 0818 111 112. So that's the end of my presentation here. As I say, I focused on WPEP, but what I'm going to do now is introduce you to Corinne Leathenois, who has her own business in tourism and hospitality in All In Tours in Sligo. Thank you very much, Corinne, for joining us. Now, the reason we have Corinne joining us today is because she has used this program before, and she's also used other work placement and work experience programs. So she's an advocate for the work that we do, and she's also found that it's worked for her business. So I'm going to ask you, Corinne, first, what was your motivation for engaging on work placement and working with Intro in terms of your own recruitment?
Hi, Siobhan, and I'm delighted to join you all today. So I suppose our motivation has been based on the fact that we actually, a couple of years ago, worked very simply with a previous program, which was called Job Bridge, very positive. We were really well supported, everything worked fine. And after the training period, we actually were able to generate basically a position for the person. So that was a good starter for me. And of course, after that, I suppose all the challenges that the business has been facing over the last few months, particularly because of COVID, but also because of our specificities, being based in the northwest of Ireland, working with francophone, basically markets, does require a lot more attention, I suppose, or specific research, I suppose, to find our candidates. So all that has been for me, for us, challenging. And while looking at all the different mediums and all the different ways to basically find our candidates, I came across these new programs that the web program that you propose, and I found that wonderful in the sense that while a company is basically finding difficulties to recruit or to find a person in a match with a specific recruitment, there's many other ways to go around basically to find a person. And to me, it actually has forced a bit more creativity, but it's been a wonderful experience to date, and that's my answer for my motivation, I suppose.
Which is, it's great when you talk about creativity and motivation. How important is that over experience? Like, because so many people, they want to recruit somebody who already has the skills. So why do you think it's a good idea to go for that motivation piece and the creativity piece and to adopt a different approach?
Well, what I like about it is that obviously, yes, we always look for obviously education. We look for experience when we recruit. However, while we recruit, we also want to kind of get a feeling of, the person we're dealing with and what are their goals, what are they looking for, and we're trying to make a match basically in between what we're looking for as a business, but also what we're looking for as a person, because it's very important that there is this match, I believe personally. So for me, attitude, and for me, attitude, motivation, interest, curiosity, dynamism, and all these kind of ingredients, I suppose, are so important when we recruit. And that's why, in a way, looking at candidates coming through the web program, you may just find that you may not get exactly what you had in mind as a job description, as a candidate, but then you can work around it and create something very unique to the person and for the business.
I think it's a very enlightened approach, I think. But what's the difficulty for you in terms of getting involved in that? Because there are, if you're not taking on somebody who already has the skills, who are going to be able to do it, like, are there barriers that you have to address?
Oh, there is many barriers. Obviously, I could not just base my recruitment on just welcoming, I suppose, web, candidates. Obviously depends on what the business really has to decide first. It's what is the overall agenda, and how rapidly would you want to have somebody who's going to be, I suppose, in the position and able to deliver. So it's across, it's really much across as to defining how much pressure you have as a business, but it's really important to kind of go with the actual business pressure, but also keep building with what's coming after, because there's always changes and it's constantly evolving when you recruit and when you deal with a team, basically. So for me, the important is really to welcome, I suppose, these various programs to work around, a specific program that would match. Yeah.
And you spoke about training. Well, there is a need for training to be provided. Is that hard to achieve?
In our agency, and I can only talk about my business, I suppose, but in our agency, it's not, it requires work, obviously, and, investment, personal investment for me, maybe a mentor, but also for everyone in the team, because you have to really consider giving the necessary time to really make the person welcome and to give them all the chances to learn so that they can actually support the team. But in overall, it works out very well in the sense that we have different departments. And in fact, in tourism, really a person who comes in a tour operating business has to understand all the different areas of the, of the company, be it from the sales side of things, to the operations, reservations, admin, accounts. So it makes it all easier because you can break it up in small modules, basically, and you can always make sure that you can feed it to the interest and the motivation of the trainee while pushing the person basically to find the right, I suppose, position within the team.
Very good. And just what would you give as advice for somebody? So you're talking to about 200 employers who are here online with us today. And what would your advice be to them? No pressure, but what would your advice be to them in terms of using intro supports?
Well, if I go, my advice would be, I suppose, if I go from what I've done, okay, which so far has worked really well for me, and particularly the last few months, and I'm going to answer really partially because of the last few months where we've all been challenged. I mean, at the moment, I'm in a situation over the last 5-6 months where I've had to renew a third of my team. So it's been quite challenging, and it still is a challenge for me today. I'm still looking for people. So I would say that the best recommendation would be to run in parallel, definitely run in parallel your recruitment campaign. But while you're recruiting, define as well, I suppose, a scenario B, A, B, or C, you know, B and C basically, and define if I can't find the right person, what would be the next step, and maybe work out a position, a description basically of a position that could be across maybe 2 different departments. And while you're recruiting, you may actually find out somebody who applied but didn't, you know, have exactly, you know, the match to the actual job description. So that kind of allows you as well to immediately be able to respond and test out the person with that side, you know, that plan B or C basically. And also it allows you as well to invite in parallel onto your platform anyway the actual web, you know, candidates. So I think that would be my advice.
Yeah, and I suppose you would consider it a success because this is the second person that you have on WPEP, although it's only going just over 6 months at this stage. So you recruited the last person, did you? The last person you had on WPEP?
Sorry, Siobhan, there was a couple of, I didn't hear your question properly, sorry.
So you are in the second placement that you have. So you had one previously since the program started, and now you're on the second one because it works so well. Is that right?
Yes, Guy started on the 4th of April with us, so he's now fully employed, and he's, you know, he's delighted with his new position in the company. And we just started actually last week as well the placement for Sarah, who's joined the company under the WEP program. So working so well.
Brilliant. And you've used Jobs Plus as well. Once you finished WPEP, you can move on to Jobs Plus in terms of income support for the business.
Yes, with Guy, that's the plan. Yes, that's working to plans. And this morning only actually had a person that was presented by your services for a potential web placement, and I replied to him and saying that potentially we may work out, you know, another one for commercial for sales this time in parallel with 2 people that are starting at the beginning of May. So we can train the new person along with the other people, and we can just get the ball rolling basically.
Well, I would say that's a success. If we had more people who took your approach, Corinne, well, then we wouldn't have anybody on the live register, which would be fantastic. So I'm going to hand back to you, Michael, I think at this stage, in terms of any questions that anybody has.
Thanks a million, Siobhan, and thank you, Corinne. That was excellent. Just to hear some of that feedback and you know, first-hand experience, it really brings it to life for me anyway. And there's some serious nuggets there. I'd like to welcome Jackie Hogan, who is a colleague of Siobhan's in the Department of Social Protection. And Jackie's been working very closely with us. Hey, Jackie. She's been working very closely with us on a number of initiatives, particularly related to the web, I suppose. And we have had a number of questions. I might kick off with yourself, Jackie, actually. So you mentioned there was a training pathway required for people taking on the web placement. Can you give us a wee bit few more details on that, and what sort of training, just to reiterate, would that incorporate?
Okay, so thanks. That's a good question. So when people sign up for a work placement, I'm talking about both hosts and participants, there's a requirement for the participant to achieve 60 hours of training in addition to the work experience element of the WEP. The 60 hours of training is basically broken down into 40 hours of general training, which we class as kind of on the job or sitting by Nelly kind of training. And the 20 hours we would like to see as accredited or sector recognized training. So by kind of sector recognized, you know, it would be something like maybe using a reservation system that would be, you know, identifiable across the sector, or by accredited, something which actually would be, you know, which would culminate in a certificate or an accreditation at the end of a learning period. Some of this training has been developed by yourselves. You referred to it yourself there, Michael, when you were talking about the Fáilte Ireland Learning Hub. I know you're going to send the link out to that later. But we've also got some other sources of training. So for accredited training, you could look at some of various SkillNet courses. So there's the Restaurant and Hospitality SkillNet, there's the Irish Hotel Federation SkillNet. We do have the QQI Work Experience module offered at levels 3, 4 and 5, which is a kind of a standalone validation of the work experience process. And there's also a whole wealth of resources on the Jobs Ireland training by sector page. So we've kind of broken down the most common sort of sectors for this program and pulled together training resources that can be accessed by our participants. And as Siobhan mentioned in her presentation, where courses are not free for job seekers, there is €1,000 training support grant available to participants. Obviously, we have to approve it, but it is available for participants to attain and reach that accredited training, the 20 hours.
It's interesting you say that. Now, I'm not sure if this relates directly to that, because a question has come in, but I'll throw it out there anyway and see how we go. But just before I ask that question, I'd just like to emphasize that, yeah, the Learning Hub, which we've shared on the chat there, if you have a look at some of those modules, they're absolutely free for everybody. And I'd like to emphasize what Jackie said about the SkillNet, particularly the IHF and the RAI stuff. We know it's gone down really well. It's been a great help to industry, and it's just excellent to have these resources there. So you'll see all that on the training by sector page. I think, Jackie, that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, we have all the SkillNet information on the training by sector page in the hospitality tile. Yeah.
Brilliant. So just a question on that we got from the audience today. So somebody has written, if we require qualifications in order for the person to work with us, and they've name checked, for example, lifeguards, swim teachers, how does this work with your program, as this business does not provide the qualification? Would I be right in saying that they would get that there'd be €1,000 towards that, or something to that effect?
No, because yeah, sorry, there you go.
Well, it's when it comes to professional qualifications that are required, and that is like to be a lifeguard is a professional qualification. You cannot say if somebody is an accountant or something like that, an engineer, it's not for somebody like that. They like somebody wants to get qualifications like that, well, they feel free to do it, and if there are costs in relation to it, maybe in relation to a lifeguard where they might have to do continuous professional development, they might be able to get it, but work placement is not the program for them because of the fact that they actually already have the skills for the job.
That makes sense. Okay.
You could think of it, Michael, maybe as somebody being taken on as a pool attendant, and then maybe developing into lifeguard skills as part of that training process, but they couldn't be hired as a lifeguard and use the training support grant to get the qualification.
So it's the stage
before. If somebody on as a lifeguard and they were on the live register, you would be able to get Jobs Plus.
Okay, so they have the qualification already. Now that makes perfect sense. Okay, another one, you spoke about role profiles, Jackie. So the purpose of these role profiles, if you just go into those and how they would help a business, and especially when they're recruiting someone for a WPEP placement.
Okay, so what we had to look at was trying to streamline the process for the industry, because it can take some time to and froing between the employer and Jobs Ireland to get the job specs right, to put up on Jobs Ireland. So what we've done is, in conjunction with yourselves, we've taken the various role profiles and matched the profile with training, with a recommended course of training for that role profile. Now we have a couple of them done, and basically what will happen is if somebody has a WPEP vacancy in that area, we can supply a template, and when the employer has filled out their side of it, so there'll still be an element of information required from the host organisation, but it means when it goes to Jobs Ireland, it will go through the process pretty quickly, and we can get that job live on the system and people applying for it as soon as possible. So it's a really streamlined process, and we can do more of them. You know, as the sector requires, we can have a look at what jobs are most in demand and what we can do to kind of, again, streamline that and put together a course of training.
And can I just add to that, just in relation to maybe some roles in the area, might be kitchen porter or chef, commis chef or something like that. Neither of those roles would be suitable for WPEP. They could be suitable for Jobs Plus, but not suitable for WPEP. The reason why kitchen porter wouldn't be is that it doesn't take 60 hours to train you to be a kitchen porter. But then also in relation to chef, that is a profession. So you don't take somebody on who doesn't have chefing qualifications to be a chef. So there again, both of those roles could come in under Jobs Plus, but not under WPEP. Jackie, do you want to just mention the roles that we have, the profiles worked up with Fáilte Ireland already?
Yeah, sure. We have looked at front of house roles, so front of house kind of junior supervisor type roles, and we've also looked at food and beverage staff roles. So we can give you those kind of straight away. There's a couple of tweaks, but we can give you those straight away. And then if there are other roles that people kind of would like us to see prepare a template for, we can work on that as well. It's not a problem.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Another couple of questions that have come in just there now. So if, or through the presentation, can you enroll in the WPEP if you have a CE, which I believe is Community Employment Scheme, in place?
If you already have a CE scheme in place, a person can't be on CE and on this at the same time. So okay. CE is for 19.5 hours. But if somebody is already, and I assume that they're talking about the job seeker as opposed to the employer. So if the person is on CE at the moment, well, then they finish off their CE, well, they leave their CE and they start on WPEP. And the reason why that would be attractive is because of the fact that they get a higher rate of pay and they also get a higher level of experience and training. And, you know, in a private sector commercial business, as opposed to supported business on community employment.
Okay, great. We have another one there, which is kind of, I think this is just probably understanding how it works in the workplace. So just on the training program, initially, now this is the understanding of it. Initially, the trainee does not have any responsibility. Is there any stage where the trainee is given responsibility for the job before the 6 months are up?
They can grow into that. So obviously you're not going to go from having no responsibility to, you know, being, you know, front of house manager with responsibility for 3 staff, you know, so it has to be appropriate. So, but if it is that they already have the qualifications, you know, somebody might be very bright and, you know, take to it like a duck to water. Well, then maybe actually they might actually complete the program early to be taken on. And again, you can still get Jobs Plus for that, or you can see it out. But during the program, they always have to have supervision and they always have to have mentoring. So if it is at some stage that they're not going to have supervision and they're not going to have mentoring, well, then the WPEP isn't appropriate for them.
Perfect. We've got another couple, so I'll speed it up a bit. But do admin support roles count, such as HR, finance, marketing, reservations, etc., or is it for operational roles only?
No, everything. Now, obviously, if you have to have a HR qualification, now it could be maybe that you have a HR qualification from years ago and you've no experience to back it up or things like that. Well, we can look at those kind of cases. But by and large, if it is a something that you need a professional qualification for, well, then you would not be recruiting for that through WPEP.
So would it be fair to say then that this is a perfect program for somebody who may have an interest in that, who hasn't started in their career yet? Then you may employ them in a more assistant role, and they would then have maybe even, you know, the financial benefits and everything else, and with permanent employment to be able to proceed to get these types of qualifications.
Yeah. And it is like, as Corinne has said, it's about bringing in opportunities for somebody to grow within the job so that they might not have the experience now, but then it's giving them a taster for what it could be, preferably with a view to going on to potentially, you know, nighttime education or things like that, or professional accreditation, because too often people start in jobs that they end up, you know, not enjoying or not liking, and the program here de-risks that for an employer. so that they don't have the cost of taking somebody on and then them leaving within 3 months, and they've had the cost of wages and they have to go and start recruiting all over again. So that's the purpose of this, is that they, you know, each of them get a taster of each other and each other's work and things like that, with a view to creating a proper full-time job out of it.
Fantastic. Okay.
And
so
I can see Corinne nodding in relation to that. So
Corinne, if you want to jump in, yeah, because I'm conscious that a lot of these questions are very technical ones, but I suppose if you've anything to say on that, Corinne.
No, I think I would entirely kind of validate everything that Siobhan just said, because I think it summarizes really what it's about. You know, it's I think the web program gives a chance for somebody who's kind of think, oh, I'd like to touch a little bit of this, you know, I'd like to try that, but I'm not strong enough to actually apply for the job. So, and for a company who cannot find a candidate, so a company who actually lack the attitude or lack the motivation of the person, as opposed to the experience and maybe the, you know, the education, in complement to what they can provide through training, through, you know, support, through mentoring and so on, then that's ideal. You know, it doesn't maybe work every time. And personally, I don't know, you know, for us, it's been success every time so far, you know, but at least it's a try, and it's a great to have the support of the team in the web. It's also great to have obviously the financial support. I mean, particularly when you bear in mind that we all come out of COVID, cash flow is more than low, and there's nearly no cash flow left, obviously, starting again for the season. So it is support, and it's less strain for the business, while in parallel it's recruiting for, I suppose, also, you know, experience and very kind of strong profiles who need to kind of be on the go right now, you know. So it's kind of both works together, but it's great. It's great for candidates. I think it's perfect for them. They're happy with that. They can learn so much.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, I think we've got a couple, just time for maybe one or two more. So there has been a lot of questions just on kind of related to this, but in a separate way. And Siobhan, I know this is a huge body of work which incorporates so many things, but are there any other areas of work, perhaps, you know, very urgent ones that your department is involved in that you would like to highlight for us here today, just to use the platform?
Thanks very much. I think I've spoken about the WPEP and Jobs Plus, which are very important in terms of support for employers. But as Corinne says, sometimes it's about thinking about alternative access routes into recruitment. And there is the disability wage subsidy scheme, which will give you up to €6.20 per hour for a person who is in receipt of a disability payment to go to work. So obviously recognising the fact that somebody might not be able to work at the same level of productivity that somebody else might be, but it's a very significant investment by comparison. I think it's 60% of the national minimum wage. So, and it also creates an inclusion in your workforce. Obviously the very big thing for us at the moment is getting people back to work post-COVID. And then we have the new crisis of the people fleeing Ukraine. So we have at the moment in the order of about 22,000 people have arrived into the country, men, women and children. And about 11,000, 12,000 of those are between the ages of 18 and 65. So our immediate focus has been on income support and getting them a place to stay. But we're moving now towards recruiting and assisting them in terms of recruitment. The level of English for a number of them, for a large number of them, is an issue. So, but we will be looking to support employers to recruit people who have fled the Ukraine and other refugees. Like we've had Syrians before, Afghans, and there again, anybody, any of those can access the welfare services that we have. The main thing is to post your vacancies on jobsireland.ie, because when you post your vacancies on jobsireland.ie, we can actually, our case officers can see those vacancies and match them to our clients and actually present them to our clients. So we're doing one-to-one engagements with Ukrainians at the moment. There's about 400 just this past week. And what we're doing is presenting them with the vacancies in the local areas that are available to them. So if you have vacancies, post your vacancies on Jobs Ireland, and our case officers will be able to present them to any of the job seekers in the area. Like we're doing an awful lot of recruitment at the moment. So if your vacancies are posted, our job seekers can see it and our case officers can present them to the job seekers.
So in many ways, and we'll probably just finish off with this later on, but in many ways, one of the key things that employers need to do after this webinar is take a look at jobsireland.ie and look at what's there, because there's so much there that many people probably haven't tapped into yet. I know some people have, but that, you know, as you say, Siobhan, everything's evolving so fast, and there are more and more things added. So, and it's kind of similar for us as well. Okay, there was a couple of last ones. I'll just maybe put this together, but one of them is, can an employer run the WPEP and the CE scheme simultaneously? I think you may have answered that sort of earlier.
That's a slightly different question, but no, you cannot be, for people who are on CE, if you have a side business, so that CE is one part of the business, and then separately you have, you know, commercial income, well then potentially you could do that. If there's a particular question in relation to a particular employer, please contact us at employerwelfare.ie and we'll be able to direct you specifically. But the likelihood with CE, that is a ring-fenced funded scheme, supported scheme, and it doesn't focus on WPEP. However, if you're a local development company who are doing CE and you have other streams of income that can support WPEP, well then we're happy to talk to you.
And last one, if we have employees on WWS, I think that might be WSS, can we still apply?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank yourself, Siobhan, Jackie, and Corinne for joining us today. It's been an excellent, we've had great engagement there, you know, and just bearing in mind that we're heading into Easter and heading into the summer, I think it's just great to get these types of things out there. And I'd urge everybody that's here today to look at those supports. So on the slide in front of you, you'll see some of the takeaways and links. Now, we're going to send this information out in an email. But as I said, it's critical that you have a look at jobseekers.ie. And Siobhan just alluded to the email there. I know it's very responsive. So if you do have a particular query that is a little bit technical, or maybe we didn't get to today, employer@welfare.ie is the email for you. Also, I would urge you, keep an eye on our tours and careers section at fáilteireland.ie/tours and careers. There is lots there already. If you haven't looked at our webinars from, you know, earlier this month on interviewing, onboarding, things like that, there's a wealth of supports there, and there's more to come. There's a campaign rolling out this month. We have career stories there. We've got career pathways. We've got the TY program. We've got the tours and careers.ie program, and we've got upcoming schemes there as well. And also, for the online training modules for new and existing employees, you'll see at the bottom of the slide there, that's the Learning Hub address. And Siobhan and Jackie both talked about Kickstart Your Journey, but I think there's about 12 modules there at the minute, including operational, including sales and marketing, including finance, even leadership. So that's a really good thing to check out. And as I said, it's free, and it's probably useful for both people starting in their careers and also for upskilling or retraining. Anybody who's thinking of moving around in the company or in the industry, it's an excellent place, even just to have a look yourself. So to finish off, I think it's from me, I'll say that a recording of this webinar will be sent following the email after this. And that's basically it from us. So thanks a million for giving us your time. And we hope that some of the information, if not all of it, has been beneficial to you. And we hope to see you all again soon once we have more resources to share. So from myself, from Siobhan and Jackie, thanks a million, and we'll see you again hopefully very soon.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Mind
you.
yourselves.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.